Hi again, everyone. I'm Ollie Matthews, and this is Generation X Politics. And this video is sponsored by contribution from Vincent. And Vincent asked for specifically a video about Vivek Ramaswamy, the one other Republican other than Trump who's worth anything. I had this video queued up in my bookmarks. It was one of the ones I was going to get to anyway, so I'm glad I got the contribution for it. I'm not going to go through the Fox News debate because it's fucking stupid. Look, I like him a lot. I really do. I really like him. He's a millennial. I mean, I still haven't had a Gen X president. But he's clearly, in my opinion, I'll say this right up front, he's clearly working with Trump. He's clear, and as a Trump voter and a Trump supporter, I mean, he's obviously, I mean, that's just a trick that's just a trick in politics where, you run kind of a shadow candidate. You're not supposed to do it. You're not allowed to. Trump isn't funding him. If Trump was actually funding him, it'd be one thing, but he's not. He has his own money. He funds himself. He's clearly working with Trump, without question. This is probably going to be his VP selection. And a lot of people are saying, even if Trump, God forbid, got taken out and they're going to try to take him off the ballot, they're going to try to do a whole bunch of shit to him. Okay, he's the guy. DeSantis shot himself in the foot. Okay, he's with the rest of them. And I said the one thing that would get me off DeSantis permanently was fucking around in Ukraine, fucking around in these overseas wars. Okay, not another dime. Any answer to Ukraine other than not another single fucking dime is unacceptable. It's over. It's done. I am sick and tired of fucking around over in third world hellholes, in European countries, in ex-communist bloc countries that they don't give a fuck. I don't care. Generation X has had their most crucial years, their most productive years, just fucking taken away from them, divvying around in foreign policy hellholes. Done with it. Done with it. I wanted to go through this interview though with Neil Cavuto because it's about 8 minutes long, and Vivek really handles himself well here because it relates to both him and Trump and how he would handle it. So let's just get into it.
Those Republicans will be on that debate stage is Vivek Ramaswamy. He is kind enough to join us right now. Vivek, good to have you back.
And let me say that, and that was the point I was getting to. I'm sorry. People that are saying that he can't win because all these racist MAGA Republicans won't vote for a brown-skinned guy. That just tells you have no idea who we actually are. Nothing makes MAGA voters happier, okay, than being able to have minorities who have typically not been on our side come over and have the same thinking, same thinking, the same morality, the same wants and needs as us. Nothing makes us happier. No, it just shows a total lack of understanding, okay, of who we are. Because all the left has is just framing you as bigots and racists and homophobes and whatever else they can hit on. If it's not Trump, it'd be him. He'd wipe the stage. And there's people who say they don't like him because of his pharmaceutical stuff. Look, like I said, I am basically down to almost a one issue at this point. End all these foreign engagements and concentrate on our own country. Anything other than that, because there's conservatives, and I understand the thinking that they want retribution, they want blood for the COVID, for the lockdowns, for all that, okay? And yeah, there should be account, but there's not going to be. Here's why Ukraine is more important than COVID, okay? Because they're not going to get away with another lockdown. They're not. Even though they're trying it again, they're saying a new strain, and I'm sure go out, get vaccinated, yada, yada, yada. They're not going to be able to get away with it again. That ship has sailed. It's gone. There's too many on their own side that aren't going to go along with it. That it's done. It's over. The only thing that matters now is to stop wasting trillions of dollars in foreign entanglements that do nothing but bleed us dry and kill our resources.
It's good to see you.
Let me ask you a little bit about these Georgia indictments against the former president. You call them political persecutions. Explain.
Of course they are.
Look, Neil, I can't think we look at these indictments without the context of 3 other separate indictments, several of which came in the last 4 months alone.
All by Democrats. Not one Republican, all Democrats. Prosecuting, they can't beat them, so they got to prosecute them.
These are 4 different indictments in the middle of an election. I think it sets an awful precedent in our country for the ruling party, the party in power, to use police force to indict its political opponents in the middle of an election. And I say this as somebody who now, in some of the recent polls, I'm polling at 2nd in this race, 3rd overall. It would be a lot easier for me if Donald Trump were eliminated from competition. But that is not how I want to win. The way we win elections in this country, at least the way it should be, is that we convince the voters of this country of our vision and what we stand for. And that's why I've said that I would pardon, at least for the federal crimes, I would pardon Donald Trump to help move this.
Well, you can only pardon for federal crimes as president. The president has no authority over state crimes. Of course. Of course. Anybody who's not saying that, any Republican who's not saying that they would admit this is bullshit, and like, again, every other politician that was up on that debate stage ain't worth shit. And that's DeSantis included. As Florida burns, he goes and goes and plays baseball in Iowa. As Florida's literally just coming apart at the seams at this point. Yeah, he won by 19 points, okay, saying he was going to be the governor for the next 4 years, and the last year he's been nowhere to be found. Other than trying to starting fights with Disney, he can't finish.
Nation forward. I am focused, for example, on your economic message. That's what we actually need to be talking more about, less about these politicized indictments that have distracted us from the fundamental issue. That's the fault of the Biden DOJ and a lot of the Democrat prosecutors across this country. Instead of explaining why Bidenomics is actually a farce, it is a failure, with actual more job openings in this country than there are people looking for work. Price increases that are indeed permanent when wages have not gone up over the same period. That is how we're going to win this election in a landslide. That's what I want us talking about. But I will be unabashed about standing on the side of principle when I say, yes, these prosecutions are wrong.
And he's really good. I mean, and this is why I like him. I mean, he's really good. You know, he says the right things. I don't think he's just saying them to say them. You know, one of his big debate moments was telling everybody, like, I'm the only one up here that's not taking donor money, PAC money, political money. All of you are bought and sold. All of you are owned. All of you are going to do what your donors and the oligarchs tell you to do. The other great one is when he told Nikki Haley, I wish you luck in your future job at Boeing and Raytheon. And she's like, I don't work there. Like, wow. This is where we're at. Most of these people are mental midgets and sociopaths.
But I can understand that. But there are 91 criminal charges in all, Vivek, as you're aware.
And you can indict a ham sandwich. Getting an indictment in a grand jury is the easiest thing to do. I've testified on plenty of grand juries. It's only one side giving information. And you could give the grand jury whatever information you want, twist it however you want. There's no defense attorney. There's no opposition. It's a one-sided argument. 91 charges are meaningless, especially when they're coming from your political opposition. Some of which you campaigned on ruining you and prosecuting you before they even took office, before they investigated everything, before they had any reason to investigate you. They just don't like you. This is why, like, you can't mainstream media. Obviously, I haven't watched Fox. I mean, I haven't watched Fox since basically since the 2020 election, other than Tucker and Maria on Sundays. I don't watch it at all anymore. But they'll sit there and they'll act like that these charges, this is where the gaslighting comes in. They'll act like these charges have some semblance of legitimacy. Well, he was by a grand jury of his peers. Really? Really? You know, when you go into Democrat areas where it's 9-1 Democrat to, Biden to Trump voters, and then you're going to say he was judged by a jury of his peers, and you're going to sit there on mainstream, what would be mainstream media, and act like it's legitimate. There's one in this Fannie Willis in Atlanta is literally fucking rappers making side deals, but like these people are a train wreck, which is why the powers that be throw them out there to do it, because they're stupid enough, because they're dumb enough to go out there and ruin their careers like this, because this is going to blow up in her face, just like it's going to blow up in New York, just like it's going to blow up on the special counsel, Jack Smith, because he's another moron that they literally had to send out of the country after he got overturned 9-0 in the Supreme Court trying to prosecute, when he prosecuted the ex-governor of Virginia for some theory of a crime that didn't exist. He tried to prosecute Senator Menendez, not guilty. Tried to prosecute John Edwards, not guilty. The guy's a disgrace. They don't even realize these prosecutors are useful idiots. They're just useful idiots with law degrees.
For 4 criminal cases, they can't all be politicized, can they? I mean, there's something that the former president must have done in any one of these.
Something, because there's 91 of them. Something in there, if any of it's politicized. How do you believe any of it? And it's all politicized. But he's just hoping there's got to be something in there that's legit. 91 charges, something. If there was anything legitimate in there wouldn't need to be 91 charges. And again, I have said this before, and I'll say it again. Trump has to be the most honest businessman on the planet. Because after 7 years of this bullshit, this is what they got on him. This is the best they got.
That struck you as wrong, if not illegal?
I think, Neil, just because the government has brought a case, if we're going to be a culture that now starts to say there must be something wrong, if the government has charged 91 counts, I think that's a people of sheep. And when the people behave like sheep, that breeds a government of wolves.
Well, you don't think
that's the reality. And so, no, I am
skeptical. Vivek, you don't think there's anything in this case that shows or even...
You don't think, instead of asking, and this is what the media does, you don't think that, well, what are you specifically talking about, Neil? Ask me specifically what you think he did wrong, and I'll answer to that. But no. He wants to put out, you don't think he did anything wrong in 91 charges? Well, you got 91 charges, Neil. What do you think he did wrong?
Strongly hints of the former president trying to reverse that Georgia contest.
Neil, I've had this conversation before. There's a difference between a bad judgment and an illegal act. And I viewed this indictment in the context of, as you put it, 3 other independent indictments. The first one beginning in New York for a novel election and campaign contribution theory, to one that has a novel theory of interpreting the Presidential Records Act, to a novel theory of attorney-client relationships. When you have a series of novel legal theories that are used to indict a prior U.S. president and a sitting candidate in the middle of an election, I just don't think that's good for the country. I'm in this to lead our nation forward, not to be a political commentator or legal analyst on a series of legal cases. But what I will say as a candidate in this race is that I do not think it is good for our country to set this precedent.
No, I
My focus,
understand
Neil,
that,
is
but
on reuniting this country, on leading us forward.
Vivek,
and that's going to make my
He's such a Cavuto has always been a fucking whiner. If there is, what wrongdoing are you talking about? So a bunch of corrupt prosecutors ring up 91 charges. Which charge what do you think he did wrong? He said trying to overturn the election and results in Georgia. That's legal. There's a constitutional process to do that, which he was following, which is what they are charging him with. They even admit, if you read the indictments, each specific act in and of itself, what Trump and the people did, not one of them is illegal. They're all freedom of speech, presidential record, whatever. But they're charging him with a RICO, saying because they all did it together, it now becomes a fucking conspiracy, and now it's a grand crime. And you know who's to blame for that? Honestly, Rudy Giuliani. Because those were the tactics they used to go after, take out the mob in New York City. And it seemed like a good idea back then. It seemed like a good idea because the mafia was so out of control. How are the cities doing how are the cities doing since the mob and the mafia, the Italian mafia, was taken out by Giuliani? How are they doing? And because just like anything else, and it was real funny when they were doing it to gangsters, locking them away in solitary to try to flip them, to try to give testimony, so they could get their prosecutions. It was okay when it was a bunch of guinea fucking Italian mobsters. That was okay. The problem is, and I'm not saying it was okay, but to society it was okay. And to a lot of conservatives and Republicans it was okay. And obviously to Rudy Giuliani it was okay. Rudy Giuliani basically came up with the whole RICO statutes. He's the first one. He's like the godfather of it. So it's kind of ironic it's being used against him. Convictions are supposed to be difficult in this country. It's not supposed to be easy to lock somebody away and take away their rights and their freedoms. It's supposed to be hard. It's supposed to be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. But, this, like I said, this slow walk to Gomorrah, the ends justifies the means mentality that this country has had for the last 80 years. Okay, first it's the mafia, and eventually comes right back to you. How smart a move was it to wipe out the old mob and the old mafia? How smart? Because you take it out, something worse always rises up in its place. Not that I approve of what the mob did, but this is a reality. Because the Italian mafia and the mob, they were fine during wartime, during World War II, when they were protecting the docks and they were protecting the coastlines and they were protecting the cities. Then they were fine. Then their crime and all the thing they were doing now was fine because they were protecting, because there was a use for them. How did it work out for us in the long term? Whenever you do things, you twist the Constitution in order to gain fucking convictions and prosecutions, eventually it's going to be misused. That's human nature.
Job more difficult.
I understand. But when you have the Republican governor of Georgia who has said it's...
And again, and here's the thing. The Republican governor, and I've said Democrat, and what I should really be saying is communists or oligarchy or uniparty, okay? 95% of the Republicans got to go too. This isn't a Republican or Democrat thing anymore. This is an America thing. This is country first thing. This is an anti-communist thing, Parties are fucking meaningless right now. Which is why, and I'm telling you, which is why I still have zero regrets. And I am still so happy the Republicans lost the Senate because of Georgia. Fuck them. Because you don't see the Republican Party in Georgia saying jack shit, save a couple of state senators. Nothing. This isn't even something that should be charged in a state court. Hopefully it's going to get transferred to federal court. It looks like if the federal judge follows the Constitution, it'll all be moved to federal court. And if that happens, then, this is how the statute is, if a state charge gets moved to federal court, the Attorney General of the state now has to step in and prosecute, with the state attorney then being the co-chair. That'll be real interesting. They're not that, Georgia ain't that crazy. Kemp ain't that crazy. This is what I'm telling you. This is going to end up turning into a disaster for them. And then they'll hang their pets out to dry. Because that's what these subliterate prosecutors are. They're pets to them. They're useful idiots. When it all blows up, they'll be blamed.
This report is irrefutable, and that this was an attempt at voter fraud that was scorching. And you have others who've taken similar views, including the Secretary of State, they're a Republican, who said that Donald Trump went too far. Wouldn't you put your trust, or at least your instincts, in those guys?
What does that mean? He went too far. In what way? In what way?
Republicans.
He went too far is an opinion. It's not fact. It's an opinion. He went too far when he ordered me to change votes. That would be a crime. But they use these vague generalization terms.
Who said that this has been well examined, aggressively examined, and there was nothing to it.
Neil, I have one question in my mind.
Nothing's been examined. None of these voter fraud cases were ever examined. What happened when they got to court was they all got thrown out because they didn't have standing, or it was moot because it was too late. You couldn't sue before the election, okay, because they didn't have standing. You can't sue after the election because the election is over and it's moot. Nobody has looked at this evidence. Nobody.
I'm running to be our next president. I ask, what is in the interest of this nation? Do I believe that these prosecutors or these elected officials or these federal prosecutors are advancing the interests of this nation when they're bringing this unprecedented indictment, not one time, but now 4 times over? No, I think our country is worse off because of this politicization. Would I have made different decisions than Donald Trump did? Absolutely, I would have. I will remind you that I'm running for U.S. president in the same race that he is.
Sure.
But I think it is so important, this conversation that you and I are having.
Right. And he's got to say that. I mean, he's got to say that. But it's obvious he walks around wearing a Truth Social hat. And he's still winning. Because voting for, like, if Trump's not on the stage, he's basically, everybody knows that he's Trump's representative.
Having our evidence enough of why this is a bad idea, because we're not talking about how we improve an economy. We're not talking about how we ought to revive our national identity.
This is a big deal, and I understand what you're saying, but this is a big deal. We can't sort of minimize it or slough it aside because it looks like a cabal. So let me ask you, when you talk about wanting to pardon Donald Trump for this, why? What would be good about that if you became president?
You know what? Thinking that throwing any United States president in prison is a good idea, whether it be Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, George Bush, we can't. That's what banana fucking republics do. And to try to throw him in prison over this shit, over shit that every other ex-president has had documents, and every election that a Republican has won, every close election a Republican has won has been illegitimate, and according to the Democrats. has been stolen. Stacey Abrams running around. I mean, how many of these people running around talking about Bush stole Florida. Then he stole Ohio in 2020, in 2004. Trump 2016, you got Hillary going for 4 years. We had to go through Russiagate. Unreal.
United States to pardon him.
To think that throwing a United States, an ex-president in prison is a good idea because your feelings are hurt. And that's what Neil's feelings were hurt by Trump a long time ago because Trump called him a loser.
I think the right answer for this country is to move forward, not to get into a weaponized tug of war between two political parties that then make a habit of using politicized police force against their political opponents. That is the stuff of banana republics. That is not what I want to see the United States of America devolve into. We should be able to disagree fiercely with one another, but still sort out those disagreements through our civic process, culminating at the ballot box. Well, every person's voice and vote counts equally. That is how we do things in the United States, not by eliminating our opponents using backdoor mechanisms. And so my chief reason for pardoning Donald Trump, at least of the federal offenses, which will be what's in my power, that includes the New York State offenses because they include the charge of an underlying federal offense as well. It will be to move this nation forward. Because my motivation in being U.S. President, Neil, is that I don't want to lead us to a national divorce. We're skating on thin ice as a country right now. That is a fact.
National divorce is the only way out. It's the only way out. Because even if Trump somehow wins in 2024 and he's able to take off, they're never going to accept it. They're never going to accept. It's going to get even worse. You can't with these people. They're not going to stop.
I want to lead us to a national revival that will take forward.
You can't, and here's the part: you can't have a national revival when half the country, when half the people in the country hate it, because they've been told since since kindergarten, and they've been just been put in their heads in these school systems that what a terrible place we are and an awful history we have.
That is also why I'm saying even now, when it would be in my self-interest as a candidate to see Donald Trump eliminated. By some counts, that would put me at #1 in the Republican primary polls. That is not how I want to see it done, which is why I've been so particular about being vocal on this, because I stand on the side of principle over partisan politics.
All right, you also spoke recently about the idea of seeking out Donald Trump as someone you would use as an advisor. What did you mean by that?
Well, I was asked about the cabinet members I would choose. Who would I choose? Other rivals of mine in the Republican primary field? The answer is I think several of them could be good cabinet members. And then I brought up Donald Trump because I don't think that he would serve in my cabinet, but the role I'd want to see him play is to, yes, be an advisor on understanding where he might have fallen short if he were to do it again on shutting down the administrative state, because that's the top of my domestic policy agenda. Shut down that administrative bureaucracy. Shut down the deep state.
It's the only thing that matters, other than getting out of these foreign entanglements, is shutting down these foreign bureaucracies. These domestic bureaucracies, these federal bureaucracies. It's the only things that matter.
Reduce the federal employee headcount by over 75%. Turns out I've read the law, Neil. Civil service protections, they don't apply to mass layoffs. And mass layoffs are absolutely what I am bringing to the D.C. bureaucracy. But I would like to not have to learn those lessons all over again.
Mass layoffs aren't going to work either because they're going to sue. And layoffs are a layoff, and it's eventually you're going to have to fire them, and you got to fire them with cause. Ain't going to happen. Well, and I said this before. What you have to do with these federal employees, and it sucks, because fixing communism isn't cheap, is do what they do in New York City with bad teachers that they can't fire because they're tenured. It takes 10 years to fire a teacher. So what they do is they call them rubber rooms, where you collect your salary and your benefits and your raises and just like however else. But instead of going to a classroom, or in this case, instead of being some bullshit FBI agent or IRS agent or whatever it is. You report to a room. And you're going to sit in that room for 40 hours a week and watch the fucking paint peel. And that's it. And you got to hire new agents who are going to do the job right. Because that is the only way you're going to get because the cost of having them do their job outweighs the cost of having to pay them for the rest of their lives. It's minuscule. It's minuscule in comparison. Sending trillions of dollars over to Ukraine. We could do that with every one of these bureaucracies, every one of these redundant jobs. You're going to sit there for the rest of your career. We'll pay you. You'll get your benefits. But that's it. That's all you get. A lot of them will quit. What are you going to do? What are you going to sue for? What are you going to sue for? You can't sue to be for individual job responsibilities. You're getting paid, you're getting compensated, you get your vacation time, you get whatever you want. You get all that. You're just not doing jack shit. You're just going to sit there like a child in detention for the rest of your miserable career.
Again, but to build on where President Trump left off with the America First agenda. I'm in this race to take that America First agenda to the next level. And yes, in a way that unites this country. And I will take everybody's help, including Trump's help, in making me successful in that role.
All right, we'll follow it closely. Vivek, very good seeing you again. Thank you very much.
Like I said, I like him a lot. I do. I like him a lot. You know, he's a little young. He's a millennial. There hasn't even been a Gen X president yet. I don't think it's his time. I think he'd be a good VP choice, though. He's a great surrogate for Trump. He's obviously working with Trump. He's obviously Trump's mouthpiece. You know, some people don't like him. They say he's a charlatan. Look out, he's all about the pharmaceutical companies. Listen. He's going to shut down he wants to shut down the administrative state, and he wants no more money going to foreign entanglements. Now, he has a Taiwan position that makes sense because of the semiconductors that he understands. That if China takes over Taiwan, that really hurts us because every goddamn semiconductor is made over in Taiwan. And he's talking about having semiconductor independence within his first term. And that's important because if we can make our own semiconductors, then we really don't need anybody. Those are issues that actually matter. So I do like him. I like him a lot. He's a little young. I don't think it's his time yet, but it's not meant to be his time right now. But I mean that's where we're at, you know. And after what they did to Trump now in Atlanta with the mugshot and all, and you know they're stupid. They're just stupid because that blew up. The mugshot blew up in their face because Trump is the master marketer. Like and I've said this again, I said this many times too. Everything the left does is a taunt. It's meant to taunt you, to demoralize you. And when their taunts don't work, it fucking demoralizes them to no end. And this is another example of when their taunts fail. So as an outro, this is from High Res the rapper, Donald Trump. Love Vivek, but I got to give it to Donald. This is his rap song. This is his I've been released from jail song from High Res the rapper. And we'll leave it there.
I want to go to LA.
Well, shut up, Patriot J, Benny Johnson, Big Bongino, Alex Jones, free my dogs and lock up the radical left's gone crazy. I don't bail, I won't see inside a cell. Shout out Thugger, free my slime, slat, YSL. They tryna lock me up, but I'm plugged in ATL. Got homies doing life in jail, they living in hell. These DAs acting silly, my mugshot is worth a billy. So some merchant made a milli, shot me Millie out in Philly. Shot the baby, shot the Sosa, Benny Butcher, them my rollers. Called me racist, but these rappers riding with me, them my soldiers. Mega, 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 I am not who they are after. I'm just in the way they want to get to you, but I won't let them. Cold-hearted, no, I'm artist, getting back to where I started. I don't need to do the race, I'ma beat them Rico charges. And if I go to prison, you can't do me like the Clintons. I'll be laid up, eating steak with Secret Service, chilling, screaming, Orange Man bad, the whole world mad. Thug life, shout out all of my MAGA base chads. Coming for the deep state, I will stop the New World Order. But before that, I'll finish walls at the border. YSL, // shout out Thugger. Finny got nothing on us.
That's a banger. My mugshot made a Billy. Birch made a Millie. That's good. It's funny. And that's how you got to do it. They hate being taunted back, and they hate it when their taunts don't work. So, thank you to Vincent for sponsoring and the topic. I really appreciate it. Thank you to everybody watching. Please leave any opinions in the comment section below. And again, if you want your story read on the channel, you have a topic you'd like me to cover, something you'd like me to expose, you'd like to set up a Skype phone call, have a private video made, you'd like to sponsor a video like this for someone who needs help and can't afford it, or just make a contribution to the channel in general to keep it supported, growing, and successful, because this channel survives 100% on contributions from all of you. Without you guys, all this goes away. So if you like what you see here and you want to see more videos like this, you know what to do with either the Cash App, Zelle, PayPal, and email links in the description box below. Also, please like and share this video wherever you can. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and be sure to click the subscription bell to be notified of all my video uploads. Also, follow me on Rumble, both my channels, Twitter, and Telegram as well. I'm Ollie Matthews. This has been Generation X Politics. Take care, everyone.